What is the National Aeronautics and Space Administration finding?
What is it under 10 kilometers of depth that the National Aeronautics and Space Administration desperately wants to find? Very few people know that just a little bit away from Florida. Underwater, 20 meters deep in the ocean, there is a unique underwater lab in the world. Its name is Aquarius Reef Base. Here, every year, 5 to 6 researchers and astronauts, yes astronauts, are sent for weeks for a special project known as Project Nemo. National Aeronautics and Space Administration calls them aquanauts. Not just this, National Aeronautics and Space Administration has an autonomous underwater vehicle called AUV Orpheus. This goes 10 kilometers under the sea, where research is being conducted today. But what exactly does a National Aeronautics and Space Administration like space agency do in the depths of the ocean? After all, there is a separate large organization in America for conducting oceanic research, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So, does National Aeronautics and Space Administration get any clues about alien life forms deep in the ocean? Or is there a major disaster on Earth, the effects of which National Aeronautics and Space Administration scientists have already predicted? Well, a famous physicist, Edward Ballard, once said something very interesting. The Earth's 2/3 surface is covered with water from the oceans. But even today, we know more about the surface and atmosphere of the Moon and Mars than we do about our own oceans, which involves reaching the bottom of the deep sea and conducting research there. It's so difficult. And even after knowing this, National Aeronautics and Space Administration has set a deadline of 2 months for its unique Oceanic mission. Despite knowing this, National Aeronautics and Space Administration's 2-month deadline is in jeopardy. The outcome remains uncertain. Let's understand what exactly is going on in the minds of National Aeronautics and Space Administration scientists and why we should be concerned about it. Look, today, National Aeronautics and Space Administration is planning a very dangerous mission. A mission for which I was personally waiting for 6 years. See for yourself. All the organisms and species that live in water, from the smallest to the largest, all live in this sunlight zone. Do you know why? In such a big ocean, why is it so small, more populated than all? Well, the reason for this is that just like you go deeper into the water, pressure rises with depth, increasing every 10 meters. Water pressure increases by 1 atmosphere. 1 atmosphere pressure is the pressure that our body feels on Earth, or can say it feels on the atmosphere of Earth. Remember the Titanic submersible scene? It was 3.5 kilometers under the sea level when it was imploded, and people under it were literally vaporized in a millisecond. Instantly, they wouldn't have felt any pain, because it takes at least 25 milliseconds for the human brain to sense pain. Before they could even feel anything, everything was over in an instant. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration is going 3 times deeper than that of the Titan, because they are very soon planning a mega-level alien exploration mission. It's also in our solar system, in such a space object where we have the potential to find alien life. We just need to get there and confirm it. Now, what is that mission? And it's in our own solar system to find exactly where these elusive aliens are. Do you know about this thing? Well, we're going to find out about it in a bit. But before we get into this, let's first understand what an alien mission could possibly have to do with the oceans of our home planet. Well, you already know that life on Earth began in the deep oceans. And this fact is a big proof of concept for National Aeronautics and Space Administration. According to National Aeronautics and Space Administration scientists, there are 3 basic criteria that give rise to life as we know it. In any environment, water, energy, chemistry, however intelligent and developed beings we may become. But in the end, we are all made from the same living atoms, and we are all subject to the laws and forces of nature. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, sulfur, nitrogen, and other specific elements are essential for life. When combined with another in a special way, it gives birth to a life. But what if you leave all these elements together? And will life be born? Well, think of it this way. If we have tea leaves, sugar, and water, will tea be made by just keeping them together in a pot? Absolutely not. To make tea, you need a medium, which is water. And then you need energy to interact these amongst themselves. Like we transfer heat energy from gas to make tea. Even in Earth's early days, these elements required confinement in a specific way, needing water and energy, which was present in our oceans at that time. You might ask, where was the energy deep in the ocean coming from? Sunlight doesn't reach deep under the ocean. And on Earth, every living being is primarily dependent on sunlight for energy. This is a very common misconception that we cannot live without sunlight. In reality, we cannot live without energy, and sunlight is just one source of energy. It's just one source in the sources. Life on Earth did not begin with sunlight, and for this reason, there is a special zone in the ocean where life was born for the first time. The Hadal zone. What is this Hadal zone now, and how is science solving the mystery of origination of life? With its help, we will understand about this in a bit. Now let's come back to the topic. We were discussing why the scientists suddenly became interested in the Hadal zone. So the Hadal zone is the lowest part of the ocean, touching the seabed. It goes down to 11 kilometers deep and is filled with dangerous terrains. Here, high-pressure hydrothermal vents or underwater volcanoes. When they burst, hot water and minerals along with lava steam are released. These are like underwater geysers or hot springs. The temperature of the water released from the vent can reach approximately 400 degrees Celsius, which can melt solid metal. Not from the sun, but from our planet's extremely hot core, the energy has given life on Earth. This energy was responsible for the first complex biomolecules. Molecules such as proteins, lipids, and nucleotides were formed, which then gave birth to the first unicellular bacteria and viruses, which then evolved over millions of years into multicellular plants and animal species. This was the beginning of life on our planet, which inspired National Aeronautics and Space Administration to find life on other planets as well. So, now the next question is, which is that space object on which we can find conditions absolutely similar to ours? Mercury is very close to the Sun. Venus is very acidic. We are still studying Mars. And so far we haven't found any liquid water there. And then there are the outer planets. They are all gas giants with no solid ground to stand on. Well, you're right. There's absolutely no ground on gas giants. But their moons are solid. There's one in particular, a perfect candidate, Europa. It's the fourth largest moon of Jupiter, where, according to National Aeronautics and Space Administration's data, there's a similar saltwater ocean to ours hidden beneath the surface. The Voyager missions in 1979 and the Galileo mission in 1989 discovered this. When Europa's close-up images and spectroscopic data were studied, it was found that Europa's surface is entirely covered with solid ice. However, due to the strong gravity of Jupiter, the surface of Europa stretches and squeezes. This is called tidal flexing, and now due to the constant push and pull, the planet's core is active. And in this, massive geothermal energy is generated, due to which the water below the surface constantly stays into a liquid state. And from its magnetic field signatures, it has also been proven that there is saltwater ocean present there. And the interesting thing is that scientists have also calculated that there is 2 times more water in Europa than Earth. And even as you know, the core of Europa is also filled with geothermal energy, just like Earth. And its ocean composition is also quite similar. And because of this, there are very high chances of finding hydrothermal vents here as well. It was previously found in an alternate study that there are also fundamental elements in the composition of Europa's environment and surface. It can support biochemistry of life, such as carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, sulfur, etc. And from this perspective, National Aeronautics and Space Administration is sending its own space probe here to study this in detail and to find a promising sign of alien life here. Now, this mission is so amazing that I personally have been following it for 6 years. Don't consider this a normal mission. It's a groundbreaking mission for all space agencies. To give you a fair idea about its grandeur, let's compare this to our Chandrayaan, which was a successful and highly celebrated mission. Our rockets rotated around the moon for 5 times. So, a slingshot effect can be used to get to the moon. But to reach Europa, National Aeronautics and Space Administration is literally using the game. The one which had a pinball, how it flew up and down in the sky, stuck in the throat, all the food went down the wrong pipe. This is the strategy to use. There will be calculations that will blow our minds. Jupiter's moon, Europa, is almost 1600 times more than the Chandrayaan-3 mission. Just imagine that the moon is in your backyard building. The distance to Europa is approximately the travel distance from Mumbai to Delhi. Their moons will interfere with the... And in this journey, the big gas giants will have gravity, gravitational pull. Asteroid belt, which has millions of space objects escaping that, and not to forget the sun's gravity and solar winds. It is going to be a super complicated mission. Let me show you a glimpse of it. The first phase of the mission is Europa Clipper satellite. The expected timeline is the Europa Clipper will be launched from Earth on October 2024. And then after reaching Mars, it will take a slingshot and come back towards Earth like a boomerang, then take Earth's slingshot and pick up speed towards Jupiter. In which direction it will shoot like a ping pong ball, it will travel towards Europa. And this is just a start. It's a 7-year journey to get from Earth to Europa. Just imagine. Calculate the present position and future position of every planet and space body in this entire time frame. Calculating how to launch a spacecraft from an angle into space, because planets and moons are revolving in their own orbits. So on every page, how many directions and how much time should it take to reach there? All these things are calculated and predicted by National Aeronautics and Space Administration for their mission. Now, this satellite's entry in Europa's moon is very filmy. After its close approach to Jupiter, the Europa Clipper spacecraft aims to enter orbit around Europa. The satellite is intended to fly by the Galilean moons of Jupiter, which are the 4 largest moons of Jupiter, and enter into orbit around Europa. I'm very excited about this. Okay, when its journey will end in 2031, it will start studying the environment and settlement on Europa. After which it will send data on gravity values, temperature readings, atmosphere, winds, etc. back to Earth. And then, whatever operation it will perform, it will be literally no less than a sci-fi movie. A few days after landing on Europa, robots, also known as cryobots, will be sent to penetrate the ice on Europa's surface, which will then analyze its depth. Now, according to current estimates, there could be a layer of ice ranging from 2 kilometers to 20 kilometers thick, which will take years to penetrate with a probe to reach the water below. It could take years to do so. That cryobot will melt through the nuclear-powered ice to reach the depths of the ocean below, and will go with its 48 micro-robots, which will be deployed below, then go separately into the depths of the ocean. But we will search for life by swimming. Very sci-fi, right? And if we find alien life, how will its biology be? Just imagine how it would be if we found out that we are not alone in this universe, but very deep and exciting. What are the chances of finding life in the deep waters of Europa, in your opinion? What are the chances that an alien life form will be found there? If you ask me, give it a thought how many space agencies around the world are trying to find alien life today. Europa is also very close to us. We have such spacecraft in our possession today as Kepler Space Telescope, Hubble and James Webb Space Telescope, just to name a few, with which we can search for evidence of life millions of light years away. But so far, unfortunately, we have no solid evidence of alien life yet. Also, we are trying to study the origin of life in the same way it evolved on Earth. But deoxyribonucleic acid, like any other self-replicating complex molecule, is not necessarily unique to Earth. It can be born in any style, in water, in the origin of life, and even in ways that we don't know yet. We are only searching based on the Earth model, which can be extremely rare. We might just be barking at the wrong tree. But you know what? All this even after knowing all this. The world's top scientists and best minds are keeping away their individuality, their color, their caste, their religion, their self-doubts, all while trying to change the 1% chance into success. This is the beauty of humanity. This is humanity at its core, which made us most advanced settlements to ever exist. Just pure curiosity. And we know this very well, that even if we fail, missions like these bring out the best from humans. We humans have a lot of potential, but bringing out the best potential is not an easy task. Such curiosity-driven revolutionary missions give us that energy, that meaning which keeps us moving forward. We are committed to making our society better and creating history. When such a revolutionary mission comes along, science and technology develop for that mission. Its benefits to empower all domains of society. So with that said, let curiosity be the ultimate driver of your life, because there is always so much to learn, so much to explore, and so much to grow. Gaurav Thakur signing off. Jai Hind.